Hi, Jennifer Stewart here, and I'm so excited to have Jill Savage with me today as part of my Peace and Joy parenting series. And I wanted to introduce Jill to you. So, Jill is an author and speaker who's passionate about encouraging and empowering others. She's called one of today's most exciting female speakers. Jill's honest, engaging communication is strengthened by her ability to make her audience laugh while they learn. Laughing is always a good thing. Jill is the author of 7 books and the co-author of 5, including the best-selling No More Perfect Moms. I love that as a mom. No More Perfect Kids. And her newest book, co-authored with her husband, No More Perfect Marriages. She and her husband, Mark, have 5 children. Good for you guys. 3 grandchildren and a whole herd of barn cats. You can find Jill online at jillsavage.org. So, hi, Jill. How are you today?
Good. Good to be with you.
I'm so glad to be chatting with you. I love what you are focusing on with, allowing people not to have to worry about being perfect all the time, because I think it's so hard, especially nowadays. We have all the Instagram and the Pinterest and everything, and you look at everybody else's life and you're like, they're all perfect. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my family? So I'm so thankful for what you're doing. So, and I wanted to ask you, first of all, what is one of the first steps that you would tell parents to when they're starting out and trying not to worry about their kids and everybody being perfect? How do you begin on that journey?
Well, I think that we have to do some self-talk that really helps us to kind of pull back from that ledge of comparison. And so one of the things that I often do is when I see a picture on Instagram, or I see somebody that maybe looks like they've really got their act together and I'm not feeling like I have mine, I will say to myself, she has a backstory I don't know. Right. Or I'll say, she has pain in her life just like I do. And both of those are able to kind of pull me back from that ledge of comparison and plant me on the firm foundation of reality, so that I am able to stop that comparison game that is not helping me in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that it has to start with our own self-talk and what it is that is going on inside of our head as we scroll through Instagram or Facebook or, anywhere else where we just see someone and it looks like they're doing better than we are. And so we've got to be careful about what it is that we're saying to ourselves in those moments.
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's very easy to be thinking that everything you see is their whole life, when obviously, most people, I know some people are very real and do put the struggles out there, but I think most people prefer not to share their very worst moment when they're screaming at their kids and they've lost it, and those things that they're embarrassed of. Yeah, like we're not.
I think that we need to remember that that really for most people, social media is their highlight reels. It's not their behind the scenes. And I do believe that more of us need to be sharing our behind the scenes, our struggles. And, I'll tell you, I'll never forget one time I came home. So in the fall and spring, I do a lot of traveling. Now that my kids are grown and I'm able to have that freedom, I speak at a lot of conferences and events. And so I'm in and out a lot. And this one particular time I had just been I'd unpacked one suitcase only to pack another one. And I wasn't putting things away in between. And honestly, it looked like an explosion had happened in my bedroom. It was bad.
I know what that feels like.
I know. And so I saw myself, I saw the bedroom on this one Wednesday evening, and I knew I was home the next weekend. And I kind of even just said to myself, all right, I'm declaring war on you this weekend. My bedroom, I said that.
Yeah.
It was my declaration that I'm going to get this done. And so I did that. And then I caught myself and I thought, I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to post it on Facebook. And so I did. And all I did was put, hey, this is my current reality. What's yours?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, that was as close to a viral post I think I have ever had. Women immediately started taking pictures of their kids' counters, pictures of their kids' bedroom, We had women that took pictures of the condition of their cars.
Yeah.
Is just, and we all bonded over the imperfect parts of our life in that moment. So I think that there's something very special that can happen if we will be more honest.
Sure.
Because I think that honesty begets honesty.
Yeah, no, definitely. And being more open, that's more being a friend than as opposed to being untouchable. I know as you're saying that, I'm thinking, oh man, I've got a pile in my closet of clothes to put away right now. Yep.
Yep, we
I
all do.
yeah, and I haven't been traveling. I've just been busy. So yeah, that's all right. They'll get put away eventually. That's what I always say. Gotta enjoy
Yep,
the other
exactly.
parts of life. Yeah. So and the other thing, I know firsthand how different kids can be. I mean, I've got 3 of my own kids who are all totally different. They're all their own little people. So, it's funny as a parent, sometimes you laugh like they really came from the same parents. Oh, they did. They did. And I know from working with kids now for over 20 years in different settings, that kids are very different. I mean, they can come from the same family. I'll teach siblings sometimes. So I don't know. How do you tell parents, like, what's a way to start to get to know their own kids' unique talents and personalities so they can have realistic expectations for each child and not say, that kid is perfect at this. Why aren't you perfect at that? And, so
yeah. Well, one of the things that I really had to come to grips with is I had to see that my tendency was parenting my children by herd. Now, what do I mean by that? I would herd them all to the store. I would herd them all to church. I was, thinking of them as a group. And so I was just moving them as a group from one place to the other. And when you do that, and I think every parent, particularly any parent of more than one child, is going to naturally do this in some way, shape, or form. But when we do that, we miss what I call perception. And it's one of the antidotes to the perfection infection in our parenting that we talked about in our No More Perfect Kids book. And perception lets you see each child as the individual that they are. And when we're hurting them as a group from one thing to another, we aren't using that antidote of perception that keeps the perfection infection out of our parenting. So, what are some practical ways to do that? Well, one would be to, take your children out individually on dates and shopping, maybe for back to school items or, whatever they need done. Anytime that you can have some individual time with your kids. I remember early on in my mothering, I read a book, and the title of one of the chapters in the book was, I Feel Like an Only Child. And that's really helpful when a parent of multiple children can make their kids feel like an only child. That's when a mom or a dad is using perception well, because they're not expecting their child to be anyone other than who they really are. And that's a beautiful gift we can give to our kids. So some of that requires us to dig deep in our own expectations and to dig deep at our own thoughts, because sometimes I expected my kids to be little mini me's.
Sure.
And they're not. They're wired differently than I am. And so when I began to let them be true to who they were, the way that they are made, the way that they were knit together, and the purpose for their life, the things that they are most talented at, when I was able to allow them to really excel in those things, and I wasn't pushing them towards things that maybe I wanted, but they weren't interested in. It really exploded their personality and gave them a real sense of freedom to be who they were created to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've definitely, with my own kids, trying to carve those times out. I recently got to take my youngest one on a little mommy and me trip because everybody else was at their own things for a few days, and she ate that up. I mean, it was lovely. Every single moment that she had with me, it was amazing. It filled up my heart, and I obviously filled up hers. Yeah, to create that bond. And I know with my son, he often ends up doing daddy stuff a lot of the time. But I've been trying to figure out a way for us to be together, and he's got a lot of energy as well. So I like to go running. So I found that he's been enjoying now going with me for just around the block. I'll go do mine, and then I'll come back and pick him up. And yeah, it's a great time for us to chat. And
that's very special, and he will always remember that.
Yeah, so definitely try to bond with your kids. I think that, as parents, you're so busy. So it's like, okay, one more thing. If I have to do just a separate thing with that kid, what part of the crack of the day am I going to squeeze that into? But then I think it makes the rest of your day, like you're saying, so much better. It's worth that. Worth that.
It is. And you know what? A lot of times our kids' bad behavior comes out of their internal yearnings and longings. Yeah. And so we can actually reduce some of their attitudes and their behavioral issues. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them, if we can meet their heartfelt needs. And one of those needs is to have a strong sense of their identity and a strong sense of that they are loved as they are. So that strong sense of acceptance, that's a beautiful gift we can give to our kids.
Yeah. No, I love that. That is very important. So, how would you encourage also moms? I mean, that's the other topic that I know you focus on, loving kids, who they are and where they're at. And the other thing that I love that you're focusing on is encouraging moms to be okay with who they are. They have to know on the inside what are their gifts and their talents, and maybe they're not the best baker in the universe, but they're really good at something else for their kids. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think we all need to play to our strengths, and to stop trying to be someone other than we are. I co-authored a book with my daughter, Anne, called Better Together, because you're not meant to mom alone. And one of the things we offered with that book, which you can actually get to it at bettertogetherbook.org, is something called the Mothering Personality Inventory. And the Mothering Personality Inventory is fun to take with your friends or your mom's group, because it talks about some personality differences that we see in each other, but maybe we've not been able to label. And they affect how we feel about ourselves, and they affect how we compare ourselves to others. And if we can learn to embrace who we are and recognize, let me give you a practical example. One of them is, are you an innie or an outie? And we're not talking belly buttons. Okay? Innies tend to file things. Outies tend to pile things.
Okay.
All right. Now, I am a natural outie. If things are filed and put away too much, I forget they're there. And so I am like the queen of sticky notes. Okay. But I was building a friendship with another mom who was a true innie. And every time I was at her house, I would feel less than, because she had no clutter. And so but I couldn't figure out what was at the heart of it. And until one day I finally said to her, "Where's your mail?" And she's like, "Where's my mail?" I'm like, "Yeah, where's your mail?" Like, my mail is sitting on my kitchen counter at home, and along with the mail from yesterday. Where's your mail? And so anyway, she started laughing, and she opens up a cabinet, pulls down like a little, it was like a box that you had hanging files in. And she showed me that what she did every day when she got the mail is put them into these files, or threw it away, of course. And I mean, I just was like, I've never even thought of that.
Right.
And it never crossed my mind. So that day, honestly, I realized that I had something to learn from her. And I didn't need to feel less than, because she later told me that my outiness did her some good, because her husband had told her that he felt like they lived in a museum and nobody could touch anything. So we both were helping each other in our very different mothering personalities.
Yeah.
And that's a gift that we need to give ourselves, and we need to give each other, is to allow each other to be the way that we are, play to our strengths, learn from each other, but don't expect ourselves to be like the other moms around us. We are unique, and we're going to mom different than they are.
Sure. Yeah, no, I love it. It definitely comes back to the honesty part that you were talking about earlier, just being honest with ourselves and with each other. And I think sometimes it starts with being honest with yourself, because I think a lot of times we don't want to see that, or realize what's going on inside of ourselves. But I mean, being honest and then being okay with it, that
It is. And not that there wasn't, like, for me, my outiness was honestly causing me some stress in my life. And so I am now what I call a reformed outie, in that I've learned
I love
I
it.
will always naturally be more of an outie person. I will always have my sticky notes. But I have learned that I can also learn some different skills that help me to not be stressed out by that natural tendencies towards clutter.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I'm sure you do enjoy cleanliness, but at the same time, you want to be able to find your stuff. So,
Exactly.
yes, no,
Exactly.
definitely, definitely. So, yeah, and I guess we've already kind of touched on that, comparing the whole thing on social media. So, yeah, hopefully people can take that to heart. So, and I always like to ask people, I mean, when you're talking to moms of young kids, if you were to give them, one or two things to focus on, what are kind of some of your main things to think about when you're stuck in those, what sometimes we call the trenches, right? And when they're young and you can't see the other side yet.
Yeah. Well, I think one of them that is so important is that self-care is not selfish. I
Yeah.
think that we tend as mothers to think that self-care is a selfish thing to do. And the truth is, your family needs you to take care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, you take care of your family. And
Definitely.
this is really important for us to understand. So it's not selfish at all. In fact, it's part of what needs to be in our job description as a mother. Because if we're trying to care for our family out of our emptiness, that's when we're going to be short tempered. It's when we're going to lose it. That's when what I call the mommy monster shows up, because we have not been taking care of ourselves. And so you have to figure out what your fuel is,
Sure.
and then make sure that that fuel is happening on a regular basis. So I'm sure that your running is a way that you take care of yourself. That
Yeah.
would not be my fuel, though. So I'm glad it's yours. It wouldn't be mine. And so we have to find what our fuel is. Now, I'm a natural introvert. And so one of my fuels is being alone. And let me tell you, when my kids were younger, I felt like I never could be alone. And I finally said to my husband one day, when you get home from work every day, I'd like to go into the bedroom for 30 minutes alone. I'll have dinner in the oven or cooking in the crock pot. If you would just play with the kids and let me have 30 minutes alone. And I'm telling you what a difference that made, because I took care of myself. I would then have the wherewithal to be able to handle the rest of the evening without losing it very often. And so that is a gift I gave myself. It was a gift I gave my family as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I know when we had our first one, I totally gave up any worrying about myself. I felt like you said, like it was selfish to take care of myself. And it took me a long time to realize that if I didn't take care of myself, that I wasn't able to be as good of a mom and a wife as I could be. So I know how important that is. And I know how important, I mean, a lot of the moms I work with, the families I work with, they talk to me about that. And trying to figure out, yeah, where's that balance of, fitting in what you need while still taking care of your family. That can be a challenge, but yeah.
It can. Yeah, it can. But I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is my fuel? What do I do that makes me feel refueled? And then the key is putting that into our life on a regular, proactive basis.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. If we don't, then we end up kind of like a broken down car on the side of the road, and somebody's got to come rescue us. And we don't want to have to get to that point. So we need to be proactive about taking care of ourselves and making sure that we are investing in ourselves. And then, we don't end up broken down on the side of the road, and we're able to meet our family's needs, to the best of our ability, to the best of our human ability. But it makes such a difference when we do that on a full tank versus an empty tank.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that that sounds like both of the topics that, we're talking about today are kind of related in that investing in yourself and investing in your relationship with your child are both wonderful proactive measures. So then maybe you can avoid the mommy meltdowns or the little kid meltdowns or because everyone's filled up and they have that love and attention or whatever it is that they're desiring. And like you said, knowing what each child needs, knowing what you need as a mom, like yours and mine aren't going to look the same. Everyone's different, but yeah.
Right. And I would say that there's probably one other piece of wisdom that I would share with especially young moms, and that is if they're married, that they need to be intentional about taking care of their marriage. I remember in that same book that I read years ago, that's, I feel like an only child, another chapter title that has stuck with me forever is Wife First, Mother Second.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading that and thinking, what? And, number one, I mean, come on, he can fix his own food and he can dress himself and he can, take care of himself. And look, all these little people need me. And the truth is, he does need you as well. And I think a lot of times we act as if we took a vow that says, I take you to be my wedded husband until children do us part. And
Yeah.
I think that that's a pretty dangerous place, and we really have to prioritize our marriage. And that's not going to happen naturally. We're going to have to make time for each other. And whether that is we take some time after the kids are in bed or we have a regular date night every week, whatever that is, even just sending each other flirty texts back and forth can be a gift for your marriage throughout the day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's very important because once again, if we have a strong relationship, it's just another way to fill ourselves up, fill our whole family up. So, and that was your latest book that you put out with your husband, right? The No More Perfect.
Right, No More Perfect Marriages, correct. Yep. And so we have all kinds of marriage resources available at nomoreperfectmarriages.com, just because we really want to help couples to move their marriage up the priority list, because a lot of times it just gets squeezed out with life. There's work and there's volunteer activities, and if you've got kids at home, all the needs of children are so demanding. And so it's just easy to say, hey, you know what, we'll take care of our marriage when our kids are older. And the truth is, if you wait that long, you won't have a marriage to take care of.
Yeah.
So we really need to be intentional about helping or about prioritizing our marriage, even in the midst of parenting, because honestly, in a child's world, if mommy and daddy are okay, then they're okay. And so we bring security to our kids by investing in our marriage.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I love it. To me, it feels like your overall theme is just being proactive and taking care of everybody who's important around us so that we can avoid issues, so we don't maybe have to deal with as many issues in the future because we've poured into all that love and attention. And that's wonderful. I think that's such an important message. So, well, thank you. And I know you had said that there would be a way for people to come over to your website and get a free download of the No More Perfect Kids 13-day email challenge. So.
Right. Yes. So you can share that link. And
the link's in the email with the interview. So perfect.
Yeah. So that'll be great. And that will bring you 13 days of encouragement to see your kids as the individuals that they are.
Yeah, I love that. So important. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Jill. And
thanks for having me.
I definitely want to encourage everybody to go over and learn. She's got so many wonderful books and resources that can help you love who you are and love your kids for who they are, and just, have an amazing relationship the best that you can. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.